The Christmas tree lights blinked mockingly as I changed my third diaper of the evening. While laughter and champagne flutes clinked in the living room, I was stuck in the guest bedroom, watching over my cousin's kids. Again. My name is Deborah, and I've been the family babysitter since I was old enough to hold a bottle. Even now, at 35, nothing has changed. Deb, where are the kids' presents? Mom's voice carried through the hallway, sharp and demanding. Before I could answer, my older sister Trisha's dulcet tones chimed in. Mom, come look at my engagement photos. Brian and I just got them back from the photographer. I rolled my eyes, knowing exactly how this would play out. Mom would forget all about the presents, fawn over Trisha's photos, and I'd be left juggling 3 overtired toddlers while my younger sister Sarah posted selfies by the fireplace. Coming, Mom, I called out, hoisting little Emma onto my hip. Just finishing up here. The envelope in my coat pocket felt heavy, like it was burning through the fabric. I'd received it this morning, official looking, addressed from Tamara Reyes, our family lawyer. I hadn't opened it yet. Christmas Eve didn't seem like the right time to deal with whatever legal matter required my attention. Deborah, Mom again, more insistent. I hurried down the hallway, dodging scattered toys and discarded wrapping paper. The scene in the living room was exactly as I'd predicted. Trisha holding court on the sofa, Mom perched beside her, cooing over a tablet screen. Sarah sprawled in an armchair, phone in hand, probably on her 5th Instagram story of the night. The presents are under the tree, Mom. Same place they've been all evening. I tried to keep the edge out of my voice. Emma needs her bottle. Would someone else mind? Oh, honey, you're so good with the kids, Mom interrupted, not looking up from Trisha's photos. Nobody handles them quite like you do. Trisha shot me a sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. That's our Deb, always taking care of everyone. I felt the familiar tightness in my chest, the one that appeared every time they dismissed me as nothing more than a glorified nanny. 15 years of running our family's accounting department meant nothing. The MBA I'd earned while working full-time was just a fancy piece of paper. In their eyes, I was still the reliable middle child. Good old Deb, holding everything together from the shadows. Jason's waiting for me at home, I said, bouncing Emma gently. I should probably get going soon. But you haven't opened your presents. Sarah finally looked up from her phone. And who's going to watch the kids during dinner? The envelope crinkled in my pocket as I shifted Emma to my other hip. I'm sure between the 3 of you, you can manage for 1 meal. Mom's head snapped up. Deborah, don't be difficult. It's Christmas Eve. I'm 35 years old, Mom. I have my own life, my own partner waiting for me. I can't always be the one. Deb. Trisha's voice carried that warning tone she'd perfected over the years. Don't start. Not tonight. I looked around the room, at my mother's disapproving frown, Trisha's practiced patience, Sarah's obvious disinterest, and something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the mysterious envelope weighing down my pocket, or maybe it was 35 years of being the family doormat, finally reaching its breaking point. You're right, I said, carefully placing Emma in her mother's arms. I won't start tonight. In fact, I'm finishing instead. Merry Christmas, everyone. The silence that followed me to the coat rack was deafening. As I pulled on my winter boots, I heard Mom's stage whisper, I don't know what's gotten into her lately, ever since your father passed. I slammed the door harder than necessary, letting the sharp December air clear my head. My phone buzzed. A text from Jason. Everything okay? Need me to come get you? Before I could reply, I found myself reaching for the envelope. Under the glow of the porch light, I broke the seal and pulled out a single sheet of paper. The first line made my blood run cold. Dear Ms. Pearson, This letter is to inform you of your required presence at the reading of Reed Patterson's last will and testament. I stared at the words until they blurred. Mom had passed away 3 days ago, and I was only finding out now through a lawyer's letter. Inside, I could hear Trisha's laughter floating through the windows, and I wondered if they'd planned to tell me at all. My fingers trembled as I typed a response to Jason. Coming home. Everything's about to change. The family estate loomed before me, its Victorian architecture a stark reminder of better days. Dead leaves skittered across the cracked driveway as I pulled up behind Trisha's gleaming Mercedes. Of course she'd be the first one here. Jason squeezed my hand. Want me to come in with you? No, I need to do this alone. I managed a weak smile. But stay close to your phone? The front door creaked open before I reached it. Tamara stood in the entrance, her lawyer's poker face slipping just enough to show concern. Deborah, thank you for coming. When were you planning to tell me about Mom? The words came out sharper than intended. I sent the letter as soon as... Save it. I brushed past her into the foyer, where the familiar scent of Mom's lavender potpourri still lingered. Voices drifted from the study, Trisha and Sarah already arguing. It's obviously gonna be me, Trisha was saying. I'm the oldest, and I've been helping Mom run things for years. You've been playing dress-up at charity galas, Sarah shot back. That's hardly running things. I stepped into the doorway. Nice to see you're both taking this so well. They whirled around, guilt flashing across their faces before Trisha recovered her composure. Deb, we were wondering when you'd show up. Were you? Funny neither of you thought to call and tell me Mom died. Sarah at least had the decency to look ashamed. We thought, after Christmas Eve. After I finally stood up for myself, you decided I didn't deserve to know our mother died? My voice cracked. Real mature. Ladies. Tamara's heels clicked on the hardwood as she entered. Shall we begin? We took our seats, Trisha and Sarah on the leather sofa, me and Dad's old armchair by the window. Tamara settled behind Mom's desk, spreading documents before her with practiced precision. Before we start, there's something you should know, she began, but Trisha cut her off. Is this really necessary? We all know how this goes. Mom's been grooming me to take over since Dad died. I caught a flicker of something in Tamara's expression. Satisfaction, maybe? Actually, Trisha, your mother made some significant changes to her will in the months before her passing. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Sarah straightened up, suddenly interested. Trisha's perfectly manicured nails dug into the sofa's leather. What kind of changes? I asked. A commotion in the hallway interrupted us. Aunt Lillian burst in, looking flustered. Sorry, I'm late. Traffic was terrible. She made a beeline for me, wrapping me in a tight hug. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry you had to find out that way. What's she doing here? Trisha demanded. I asked her to come, Tamara said firmly. Your mother's instructions were very specific about witnesses. I caught snippets of heated whispers from the sofa. This isn't right, and she can't possibly, drifted across the room. If we're all settled, Tamara continued, I have a recording your mother made that she wanted played before the reading. My heart stopped. A recording? Tamara nodded, reaching for her laptop. Made 2 weeks ago. Wait. Trisha stood up. I should use the bathroom first. Sit down, Trisha, Aunt Lillian said quietly. Your mother deserves to be heard. The laptop screen flickered to life, and suddenly there she was, Mom, looking smaller than I remembered, seated in this very study. Her voice, though weak, carried the same authority it always had. My dear girls, she began, if you're watching this, then I'm gone, and I owe you all an apology, especially you, Deborah. My breath caught. Behind me, I heard Sarah gasp. I've made so many mistakes as a mother, played favorites, taken advantage, created a hierarchy that should never have existed between sisters. But my biggest regret is not seeing what was right in front of me all along. The camera shook as Mom leaned forward. Deborah, my reliable middle child, while I was busy praising Trisha's social graces and indulging Sarah's whims, you were quietly holding this family together, running our business, building something real. This is ridiculous, Trisha muttered, but Aunt Lillian shushed her. That's why, Mom continued, I've made a decision that may shock you all, but it's the right one, the only one. She smiled sadly. Tamara has the details. I just pray you'll understand why. The screen went black. Tamara closed the laptop with a gentle click that echoed through the silent room. Shall we proceed with the reading? She asked, reaching for a thick envelope. I couldn't look at my sisters, couldn't bear to see their expressions, but I felt it, the shift in the air, the weight of decades of family dynamics about to change forever. And somewhere deep inside, past the grief and confusion, I felt something else, hope. Tamara cleared her throat and began reading. I, Reed Patterson, being of sound mind. She paused, adjusting her glasses. Let me skip to the relevant portions. The tension in the room was suffocating. Sarah had stopped scrolling on her phone. Trisha sat ramrod straight, her knuckles white against her designer skirt. To my eldest daughter, Trisha, I leave my personal jewelry collection and the sum of $50,000. What? Trisha's voice was barely a whisper. To my youngest daughter, Sarah, I leave my vacation property in Palm Springs and $50,000. Sarah's phone clattered to the floor. Just the house? And to my middle daughter, Deborah, Tamara continued, her voice steady. I leave the entirety of Patterson Industries, including all assets, properties, and controlling interest in the company. The room exploded. This is a joke. Trisha shot to her feet. You manipulated her, didn't you? Got to her when she was weak. Trisha, Aunt Lillian warned, but my sister was beyond reason. I've spent 15 years preparing to take over. 15 years of charity boards, networking events, building relationships. She rounded on me. What have you done? Hidden in your office with spreadsheets? Running the actual business, I said quietly, while you were playing socialite. How dare you? The will is quite clear, Tamara interrupted. There's more. A private letter for Deborah to be opened. Of course there is. Trisha snatched her purse. This whole thing stinks of manipulation. I'm calling my lawyer. Sarah finally found her voice. Mom promised me the company's penthouse apartment. That property, Tamara said gently, now belongs to Deborah as part of the company assets. My head was spinning. The company. Mom had left me the company. Years of watching Trisha take credit for my work, of being introduced as the other sister, of swallowing my pride. And now this. I need some air. I stood up, but Trisha blocked my path. You're not going anywhere until you explain what you did to convince her. I didn't do anything, Trisha. I just did my job, every day, without fanfare or recognition. Girls, Aunt Lillian's sharp voice cut through the tension. Your mother made her choice. She had her reasons. Reasons? Trisha laughed bitterly. The reason is standing right there. She jabbed a finger at Tamara. Mom's old college friend always had a soft spot for poor, overlooked Deborah. Tamara remained professional, but I saw the flash of anger in her eyes. I merely executed your mother's wishes, which were documented and witnessed multiple times over the past year. A year? Sarah's voice cracked. She planned this for a year? My phone buzzed. Jason checking in. The simple reminder of his support gave me strength. I'm going to say this once, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. I didn't ask for this. I didn't manipulate anyone, but I won't apologize for being chosen to lead the company I've helped build for the past 15 years. You can't seriously think you can run it? Trisha scoffed. The board will never accept you. Actually, Tamara interjected, your mother spoke with the board 3 months ago. They're aware of her decision and fully support it. The color drained from Trisha's face. 3 months? They knew before me? They've worked with Deborah, Aunt Lillian said softly. They know what she's capable of. This isn't over. Trisha grabbed her coat. Sarah, are you coming? Our younger sister looked between us, torn. I I need to think. Fine, stay with the usurper. Trisha stormed out, the front door slamming behind her. Tamara handed me an envelope. Your mother's private letter. She was very specific about you reading it alone. I stared at my name, written in Mom's elegant handwriting. Sarah approached cautiously, touching my arm. Deb, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I tucked the letter into my jacket. But if you want to know how the company actually runs, my door is always open. She nodded, gathering her things. I should go. It's a lot. After Sarah left, Aunt Lillian hugged me tight. Your mother was sharper than anyone gave her credit for. She saw everything. Did she? I blinked back tears, because I spent 35 years thinking she didn't see me at all. Read the letter, Tamara said, squeezing my shoulder. And then call me. We have a lot of work to do. I stepped out into the afternoon sun, the weight of the letter heavy against my heart. My phone lit up with Jason's message. How did it go? Looking back at the house, I typed, Mom finally saw me, and now everyone else will too. The company was mine, and Trisha was right about one thing. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The key to Mom's private study felt impossibly heavy in my hand. I'd been avoiding this moment for 3 days, but the letter in my pocket demanded answers. Jason had offered to come with me, but this was something I needed to face alone. The door creaked open, revealing Mom's sanctuary exactly as she'd left it. Stacks of papers covered her antique desk, a half-empty coffee mug still sitting on a coaster. The familiar scent of her perfume lingered in the air. I thought I might find you here. I spun around to find Aunt Lillian in the doorway. I was just looking for answers. She stepped inside, running her fingers along the spines of leather-bound books. Your mother kept everything in here, every secret, every plan. Did you know? I asked. About the will? She settled into one of the wingback chairs. She consulted me last year, asked me what I thought about you taking over. And? I told her she was finally seeing clearly. Aunt Lillian gestured to the desk. Check the bottom right drawer. There's a false bottom. My hands trembled as I pulled the drawer open. Sure enough, lifting the wooden panel revealed a stack of journals and a USB drive. Your mother's private thoughts, Aunt Lillian explained. She started keeping them after your father died. I picked up the most recent journal, and a photograph slipped out. Me at my college graduation, proudly holding my MBA diploma. I was standing alone. The rest of the family had been too busy with Trisha's engagement party that day. Read the entry, Aunt Lillian urged. I opened to the marked page and began reading aloud. Watch Deborah present the quarterly financials today. My quiet daughter, commanding the boardroom like she was born for it. While Trisha schmoozes at another charity lunch, Deborah's saved us millions with her new efficiency protocols. I've been such a fool. Keep reading, Aunt Lillian whispered. How did I not see it before? The way she handles every crisis, supports her sisters, keeps this company running behind the scenes. I've failed her, praised the wrong things in the wrong daughter, but I can still make it right. My voice cracked. Aunt Lillian handed me a tissue. There's more, she said. Much more. Your mother spent her last year documenting everything. your achievements, Trisha's superficial involvement, Sarah's complete disinterest in the business. I flipped through the journal, catching glimpses of Mom's elegant handwriting. Deborah's new international expansion plan. Board members praise her financial acumen. Trisha took credit for Deborah's sustainability initiative. Why didn't she ever tell me? Pride, shame, fear of admitting she'd been wrong for so long? Aunt Lillian stood, walking to the window. Your mother was complicated, dear, but she wasn't blind. I pulled out Mom's letter, still unopened. I'm afraid to read it. Then let me give you some context first. Aunt Lillian turned back to me. 2 months before she died, Trisha came here demanding to be named CEO. What? It got ugly. Trisha threatened to expose some of your mother's past indiscretions if she didn't get her way. That's when your mother made her final decision. My hands clenched around the letter. Trisha tried to blackmail her? Your sister never understood the difference between leading and ruling. Aunt Lillian nodded at the letter. Read it, Deborah. Your mother's last words deserve to be heard. With shaking fingers, I broke the seal. My dearest Deborah, by now you know about the company. What you don't know is why. It's not just because you're the most qualified, though you are. It's not just because you've earned it, though you have. It's because you understand something your sisters never will. True leadership isn't about power or recognition. It's about service, about lifting others up. You've been doing it your whole life, even when I was too blind to see it. The USB drive contains everything you'll need: financial records, board meeting minutes, evidence of your contributions that Trisha took credit for. Use it if you must. But remember, the best revenge isn't punishment, it's excellence. I'm so sorry I made you doubt your worth. The truth is, you were always my strongest child. I just forgot that strength doesn't always roar. Lead with compassion, but don't let them mistake it for weakness. You are my heir, not because you're my daughter, but because you're the leader this company needs. I love you, I'm proud of you, and I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. Mom, I looked up at Aunt Lillian through tears. What do I do now? She smiled, steel in her eyes. Now, my dear, you show them exactly why your mother chose you. The USB drive sat heavy in my palm, a digital sword of Damocles. Mom had given me everything I needed to defend my position. The question was, how would I use it? My heels clicked against the marble floor of Patterson Industries' main lobby. Employees who'd barely noticed me for years now straightened their backs and whispered as I passed. The weight of the USB drive in my blazer pocket reminded me of what was at stake. The elevator opened to the executive floor, and I nearly collided with Sarah. Oh, she stepped back, clutching her designer handbag. I was just... Trisha asked me to get some files. From the executive floor, where you don't have access. She had the grace to blush. Look, Deb, about everything. Ms. Patterson? My assistant Margaret appeared, tablet in hand. The board is waiting in the conference room. Sarah's eyes widened. Board meeting? Today? Emergency session, I said, straightening my jacket. Care to join us? She shook her head quickly. I should go. But Deb? She touched my arm. Be careful. She's not taking this well. The conference room fell silent as I entered. 12 board members sat around the massive table, with Trisha at the far end, looking like she'd swallowed something sour. Tamara sat to my right, legal papers arranged precisely before her. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, I began, taking my seat at the head of the table. I know there are concerns about the recent change in leadership. Concerns? Trisha's laugh was brittle. That's putting it mildly. These people have worked with me for years. Have they? I pulled out a stack of reports. Because, according to company records, you've attended exactly 3 board meetings in the past year, all of them charity galas. I've been building relationships. While I've been building the business, I met each board member's eyes. The Asian expansion, that was my project. The sustainability initiative that saved us millions, my team. The merger with Robertson Tech, I led those negotiations. Under my guidance, Trisha interjected. Really? I plugged the USB drive into the laptop, and the projector hummed to life. These are emails between you and the board over the past 3 years. Notice anything interesting? The screen filled with correspondence. Board members leaned forward, frowning. Every major proposal you submitted, I continued, was copied word for word from my department's reports. Reports you accessed using Mom's passwords. Gasps around the table. Trisha's face went pale. That's ridiculous. I would never. It gets better. I clicked to the next slide. Financial records showing unauthorized expenses charged to the company, charitable donations diverted to personal accounts, and my personal favorite, emails threatening to expose Mom's past to force her hand in the succession. You're twisting things, Trisha sputtered. Mom wanted me to lead. Mom wanted what was best for the company. I stood up, planting both hands on the table. And now you have a choice. You can accept your inheritance, the jewelry, the money, and walk away gracefully. Or we can dig deeper into these financial discrepancies. The room was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. This isn't over, Trisha hissed, gathering her things. Actually, it is, Tamara spoke up. The will is ironclad, and these records are more than enough for a criminal investigation. Choose wisely, Trisha. My sister stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Now then, I turned back to the board. Let's talk about the future of Patterson Industries. I have some ideas about modernizing our approach to. The door burst open. Sarah stood there, breathing hard. Deb, Trisha's in your office, destroying everything. I ran down the hallway, heart pounding. Through the glass walls, I could see Trisha throwing files, tipping over plants, ripping photos off the walls. Security is on their way, Margaret called after me. I keyed in my code and threw open the door. That's enough. You think you can humiliate me? Trisha whirled around, mascara streaking her cheeks. Take everything I've worked for? Everything you've stolen, you mean? I deserve this company. I'm the oldest. I'm the one Mom loved best. Mom loved a fantasy, I said quietly. And you lived it perfectly, but this company needs reality now. Security arrived, gently but firmly escorting my sister out. As her screams echoed down the hallway, Sarah appeared in my doorway. Holy shit, she whispered. That was intense. I surveyed the damage, scattered papers, broken frames, upended furniture. Help me clean up? Sarah blinked, then nodded, already bending to pick up files. You know what? I think I'd like to learn about the business. The real business, not just the parties and PR stuff. I looked at my younger sister, really looked at her, and saw something new in her eyes. Respect. We start at 8 tomorrow, I said. Don't be late. As we restored order to my office, I caught my reflection in the window, straight-backed, confident, finally stepping into the light. Mom was right. The best revenge isn't punishment, it's excellence. You can't hide in your office forever. Trisha's voice blared through my phone's speaker. I'm calling a press conference. Everyone will know how you manipulated Mom. I ended the call and turned to Sarah, who was reviewing quarterly reports at my conference table. 3 weeks had passed since the board meeting, and my younger sister had surprised everyone, especially herself, by showing genuine aptitude for business. That's the fifth threat today, Sarah said, looking up from the spreadsheets. Maybe we should take legal action? Not yet. I checked my email. Let's see what she does first. My assistant Margaret buzzed in. Ms. Patterson, Tamara's here. She says it's urgent. Tamara burst in before I could respond, clutching her tablet. Turn on the news. Now. I grabbed the remote, and the office wall screen flickered to life. My heart stopped. There was Trisha, perfectly coiffed, standing at a podium outside Patterson Industries' main entrance. My mother was not in her right mind when she made these changes, she was saying. She was being influenced by certain parties who took advantage of her declining health. Sarah gasped. She's really doing this? Evidence of financial manipulation and emotional coercion. Trisha's voice cracked perfectly on cue. My sister Deborah, aided by our family lawyer, systematically isolated our mother in her final months. Turn it off, I said quietly. Tamara set her tablet on my desk. There's more. She's filed a lawsuit contesting the will, claims you and I conspired to change it. But that's insane. Sarah jumped up. Mom made that video explaining everything. What video? Tamara's head snapped up. The room went silent. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. The video Mom recorded, I said slowly. The one you played at the will reading. Tamara's face drained of color. I never played any video. But we all saw it, Sarah insisted. Mom apologizing to Deb, explaining her decision. The only video I have is the one your mother made the day before she died. Tamara frowned. I was saving it for emergencies. My hands started shaking. Then what did we watch that day? Someone edited together old footage of Mom, Sarah whispered. Made it say what they wanted. Trisha. The name felt like poison on my tongue. She set this up, made us think Mom had explained everything so we wouldn't question it. Tamara was already typing on her tablet. The real video could clear this up. Your mother was very explicit about her reasons. The office door flew open. Jason rushed in, out of breath. Deb, you need to see this. He held up his phone. On screen, Trisha was leaving the courthouse, reporters swarming around her. And I've just obtained evidence of substantial financial irregularities under my sister's management. The board will receive copies of these documents within the hour. What documents? Sarah demanded. The ones she planted last month during her rampage in my office, I realized. She wasn't destroying things. She was adding them. Tamara's phone buzzed. The board wants an emergency meeting, now. Play the real video, Sarah suggested. Show them Mom's actual last words. We can't, Tamara said grimly. Not without proper authentication. Trisha's stunt with the fake video makes any recording suspicious now. I sank into my chair, the weight of Trisha's scheme crushing down. She hadn't just been throwing a tantrum. She'd been laying groundwork, planting evidence, setting up her revenge with surgical precision. What do we do? Sarah's voice was small. I looked around the room, at Jason's worried face, Tamara's strategic mind already working, Sarah's newfound loyalty. Then I remembered Mom's letter. Lead with compassion, but don't let them mistake it for weakness. Tamara, call the board. I want them here in 30 minutes. I stood up, straightening my jacket. Sarah, get me everything you've learned about our financials this month. Jason? Whatever you need, he said firmly. Get Aunt Lillian. We need every witness to Mom's real state of mind these past few years. And Trisha? Sarah asked. I walked to the window, watching my sister's press conference replay on the media building's giant screen across the street. Trisha thinks she's playing chess, I said, but she forgot something important about me. What's that? I turned back to face them, steel in my voice. I'm not the same person who used to hide in the shadows. She wants a war? Fine, but this time I'm fighting back. The intercom buzzed. Board members arriving, Ms. Patterson. Showtime, Tamara said softly. I squared my shoulders and headed for the door. No more playing nice. No more being the reliable, quiet middle child. Trisha's about to learn what happens when you push the family doormat too far. Behind me, I heard Sarah whisper to Jason, I almost feel sorry for Trisha. Almost, but not quite. The boardroom crackled with tension as I plugged in my laptop. 12 pairs of eyes watched my every move, while Trisha sat smugly at the far end, a thick folder in front of her. Before we begin, she announced, I have evidence of actually, I cut in. I'd like to play something first. I nodded to Tamara, who dimmed the lights. The projector hummed to life, showing Mom's study. The timestamp read 1 day before her death. Is this the real video? Sarah whispered from beside me. Just watch. On screen, Mom sat at her desk, looking tired but clear-eyed. If you're seeing this, the worst has happened. Trisha has made good on her threats. Trisha's smug smile faltered. For years, I allowed my eldest daughter to take credit for others' work, Mom continued, particularly Deborah's. I have here documented proof of every instance. She held up a familiar USB drive, but more importantly, I have proof of financial misconduct that goes beyond simple credit stealing. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Trisha half rose from her chair. This is clearly edited. The video is time-stamped and notarized, Tamara interrupted, unlike the version you created for the will reading. Mom's voice grew stronger. Trisha, if you're watching this, know that I love you, but your actions have consequences. The transfers from charitable accounts, the forged signatures, the threatened blackmail, it all stops now. Turn it off, Trisha demanded. Keep rolling, I ordered. Deborah, Mom continued, will receive control of Patterson Industries not because she's my daughter, but because she's earned it. Every acquisition, every expansion, every innovation of the past decade, they were all her work that others claimed as their own. I clicked to the next slide. Side-by-side comparisons of my original proposals and Trisha's plagiarized versions. That's not possible, Trisha sputtered. Those documents are confidential. They're my documents, I said quietly. Every single one. Sarah stood up, distributing folders to each board member. These contain bank records showing unauthorized transfers from company charitable accounts to private offshore holdings. You little snake, Trisha hissed at her. You helped me set those up. The board chairman's head snapped up. You're admitting to the transfers? Trisha's face went white as she realized her mistake. There's more, I continued. Aunt Lillian? Our aunt stepped into the room carrying a familiar journal. Your mother documented everything, Trisha, including your attempt to blackmail her with information about her past. Information that wasn't even true, I added. Mom confirmed that in her final days. This is all lies, Trisha shouted, but her voice shook. I've given everything to this company. No, I corrected her. You've taken everything from this company, and now you're going to face the consequences. The board chairman cleared his throat. Ms. Trisha, given these allegations and your apparent confession regarding the financial transfers, we'll need to involve the authorities. You can't do this. She turned to the other board members. I've known you all for years. You've used us all for years, one of them replied. The board fully supports Deborah's leadership. Security appeared at the door. I'd had them standing by, just in case. This isn't over, Trisha snarled as they approached. I'll destroy you, Deborah. You'll what? I stood up. Plant more fake evidence? Create more doctored videos? The truth is already out, Trisha. Game over. As security escorted her out, her screams echoed down the hallway. I'm the oldest. It should have been mine. The board chairman turned to me. We'll need to issue a press statement. Already prepared, Tamara said, sliding him a document, along with proof of all allegations. Sarah touched my arm. Are you okay? I watched through the glass walls as Trisha was led away, still shouting. My perfect, polished older sister, finally facing the music. Ms. Patterson, Margaret appeared with a small package. This just arrived from your mother's estate lawyer, marked urgent. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a single key and a note in Mom's handwriting. For when the truth comes out, behind the painting in my study, I'm so proud of you. Mom. Go, Sarah urged. The board and I can handle things here. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw the executive she was becoming. You sure? She straightened her shoulders. I learned from the best. As I left the boardroom, I heard her addressing the board with newfound confidence. Mom was right. Karma had finally caught up with us all. Trisha's carefully constructed facade had crumbled. Sarah had found her true calling. And me? I clutched the key tighter. One last mystery to solve. One last message from Mom. But this time, I wasn't walking into it as the forgotten middle child. I was walking into it as the woman I'd always been meant to be. The woman Mom had finally seen. The painting in Mom's study, a serene landscape she'd bought at my first art show in college, swung away from the wall easily. Behind it sat a small wall safe I'd never known existed. My hands trembled as I inserted the key. Inside lay a single leather-bound book and an envelope marked, "For my true heir." I thought I'd find you here. I turned to see Aunt Lillian in the doorway, holding 2 cups of tea. Did you know about this? The safe? No, but I knew your mother had more to say. She settled into her usual chair. Open it. The envelope contained a letter and a small silver key. Dearest Deborah, by now the truth has come out. Knowing Trisha, she forced my hand even from beyond the grave. But that's not why I'm writing. This book contains every dream I had for Patterson Industries, dreams I was too cautious to pursue. Environmental initiatives, employee education programs, community outreach that goes beyond fancy galas. You'll find detailed plans, budgets, and proposals. I worked on them in secret, knowing I'd never have the courage to implement them myself. But you will. The silver key opens the door to something precious. The original Patterson family home, where your grandfather started this company in his garage. I've had it restored but kept it secret. It's yours now, to use as you see fit. You were always meant for this, Deborah. Not because you're my daughter, but because you have what I never did. The perfect balance of compassion and strength. Lead well. Lead with purpose. All my love, Mom. The doorbell rang downstairs. Aunt Lillian smiled. That'll be Sarah and Jason. I took the liberty of calling them. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. Sarah burst in, still in her business suit, Jason right behind her. The press release is out, she announced breathlessly. Trisha's being charged with financial fraud and corporate espionage. The board is issuing a formal statement supporting your leadership, and she stopped, noticing my tears. What's wrong? I handed her Mom's letter. While she read, Jason wrapped an arm around my shoulders. The old Patterson house, Aunt Lillian mused. I haven't been there in decades. What if an idea struck me? What if we turned it into something meaningful? Not a museum, but a training center? Sarah finished, looking up from the letter. For employees' children, educational programs, mentorship. A place where no one gets overlooked, I said softly. Jason squeezed my shoulder. Want to go see it now? The drive took us through familiar neighborhoods until we reached a modest craftsman house with a large garage. Nothing fancy, just solid, practical, real. Like me, the silver key fit perfectly. Inside, modern amenities blended seamlessly with preserved historical features. The garage still had the original workbench where our grandfather had built his first prototype. It's perfect, Sarah whispered. My phone buzzed. A text from Tamara. Trisha took a plea deal. She's paying restitution and attending mandatory counseling. She asked to speak with you. Are you going to? Jason asked, reading over my shoulder. I looked around the room, at Sarah exploring with genuine enthusiasm, at Aunt Lillian smiling knowingly, at the legacy of hard work and integrity surrounding us. Eventually, I replied, when she's ready to see me as I am, not as who she thinks I should be. Speaking of who you are, Sarah pulled out her tablet. Wait until you see the responses to our press release. The business community is calling you a quiet revolutionary for exposing corporate fraud while promoting ethical leadership. They don't know the half of it, I said, opening Mom's book of proposals. Look at these plans. Mom was decades ahead of her time. And now you can make them reality, Aunt Lillian said. Starting right here. I ran my hand along the old workbench, feeling the grooves and nicks of honest labor. You know what? Let's do it now. Sarah, call the architects. Jason, start documenting everything for historical preservation. Aunt Lillian, I'll put on more tea, she smiled. This feels like an all-nighter in the making. As they scattered to their tasks, I took one last look at Mom's letter. The words blurred through happy tears. Lead well, lead with purpose. I will, Mom, I whispered. I promise. Outside, the sun was setting on the old Patterson house, casting long shadows through the windows. But inside, everything was bright with possibility. The overlooked middle child had finally found her spotlight, not by demanding it, but by earning it. And this time, I wasn't just going to maintain the family legacy. I was going to transform it,